Hello, today, frogs. Okay, that intro was pitiful. No, today we are doing the official Frogs Jam deck profile. You may have seen a deck profile on Decathlon's channel. It was great, I'm not gonna lie, well edited and all, but I didn't really discuss the ratio, and today that's what I'll do. Just to put it into context, this video is strictly better than Decathlon's, so subscribe to me. Okay, so anyway, let's get right into it. First up, I'm going to speedrun the deck profile, and after that we will discuss the ratio. So first up, playset of Frogs Jam, playset of Turipurun, which goes alongside 3 Unexpected Die and 3 Rescue Rabbits. Nothing much to say about those right now. This is Frogs Jam deck profile. You know what to expect. Memes, mostly. Let's continue the speedrun. The Frog package. 3 swap, 3 dupe and 2 running Todin. Busto Shark Engine and Abyss Sturge to go into XYZ monsters that aren't totally awesome. Invocación Doble, Monster Reborn, great to extend, we'll discuss after. So, I need to say it now, but I spent 4 years learning Italian, and yeah, I mean, I don't speak Spanish, so it's Flor de ceniza e primavera feliz. Fi. Alongside Ash Blossom, we have 3 impermanents, not the best cards. We'll discuss about it later on. Rocky Boy. I have some interesting news for you guys. It synergizes with fucking Frogs Jam. Yeah, it does. I am a bit baffled to say this, but it actually works. Somehow. Red Eyes, Dragoon package. Where did I? Yep. Moving to the extra deck, playset of Toad, Bahamut Shark, to go into Draco Future. There. Okay, alright. We have all the roads going to Dragoon, Phoenix, Lambda, and Ball Sword. So, it is time to actually discuss ratios and talk about Frogs Jam. I mean, that's what we're here for, I guess. So hey, let's do it. I'm a simp. I need to see the queen. Oil the queen. Anyway, yeah. I kind of fucked up the recording. It's quite sad. There, okay. I kind of fucked up the recording while doing the oil the queen thing. That's pitiful me. Moving into the ratios. 3 Frogs Jam and 3 Turipurun. Why is that? There's actually a very good answer, so no more than 6. You don't want to burn more. It's a question of probabilities, and trust me, you see them just the amount of time you want. You may have seen the Frogs Jam 101 and wonder where the fuck is Psychic Kappa. The answer is not in here, of course. Where is that? You probably saw the deck list after, and you may have seen me playing 2, 2, and 2 Psychic Kappa. Let's assume they are Psychic Kappas. Long time ago I was playing playset, Breaky, and there was some reasons we'll discuss in another video that will come next week about the tech cards. So you have your 2 Frogs Jam, 2 Turipurun, and you 2 Psychic Kappa. There's something actually quite simple as to why I don't play 2-2 and 2 anymore and just 2 playset. It's due to Rescue Rabbit. With Rescue Rabbit, there's something that is very rare, but it can happen, and it did happen to me a few times. I mean, I've been playing it for, we're close to 4 years anniversary of Rock the Jam, so we will need to celebrate it. What can happen is you have your Rescue Rabbit in your hand, you have 1 Turpern, 1 Psychic Kappa, and 1 Frog the Jam, and you just can't resolve your Rescue Rabbit. Playing with playsets of them, the only way you can't resolve a Rescue Rabbit in your hand is having 2 Frogs the Jams and 2 Turriperns, precisely. You can even have 3 and 1 and you can still resolve it. So, to put it simply, there's a lot more chances you resolve Rescue Rabbit having 3 and 3. The only plus of playing 2-2 and 2 is the ability of resolving 3 Rescue Rabbit in a duel. That's never gonna happen. It's extremely unlikely. Maybe happened once in my lifetime of me playing the deck, so yeah. What you need to know is Unexpected Eye plus normal summon usually equals in Toad, and this deck, it's not that it breaks often, it can, but sometimes you don't have a plethora of extenders, and negating an Unexpected Eye can be very detrimental. It's rare though. Do I recommend negating it? No, I don't really. But after, if you're facing Frog the Jam, which is extremely unlikely, but if it happens, after having side decked, you can Ash Blossom it, because the chances are the Frog the Jam player will have sided a lot of cards, because that's kind of how I play it personally, signing a lot of cards, because I don't want the third duel, because it's usually going to be a third duel. I really want it to be brave, like few turns, minimal amount of turns possible, and you side a lot, so you don't have a lot of extenders. Alright, the Frog package, 3, 3, and 2. There's not much to say here. Rolling Toadin, you never play 3. Why? Because unlike Dupe Frog, which you can actually normal summon, crash into an opponent monster, and maybe you have, like, say, a Frog Jam or a Buzzsaw Shark and a Beasturge, you can search your Swap Frog, special summon, you already have a Dupe Frog in graveyard, so you can send the Running Toadin. Running Toadin, you banish the Dupe Frog, special summon Running Toadin, you have 2 frogs, totally awesome. All Dragoon. That's why Dupe Frog is important at 3. It's also important because it's the card you summon with Toad. You never summon Swap Frog with Toad. And Running Toadin it's not a frog, technically. You can't banish itself to special summon another Running Toadin. It doesn't synergize it with the Swap Frog ability to do an extra normal summon. So 2 of them is perfectly fine because you'll just always be dumping them from the deck. Right. There's something also I will say now, but we'll see it a lot of times when I do some duels on Edo Pro, because that's how you'll really get to understand the deck. It's the importance of what you send with Swap Frog and the synergy with notably Monster Reborn and Double Summon, and how to send. How to send is important, because it's very often that you don't want to send your Dupe Frog. Why? Because you can send a Swap Frog, and yeah, okay, banishing your Swap Frog, you're like, yeah, but it's your engine. Yeah, but Dupe Frog, when it's sent to the graveyard, it misses timing though, but when it's sent to the graveyard, maybe you have no Swap Frog left in your deck, but it can also add frogs from your graveyard to your hand, which is extremely, extremely important. So that's why you need to take care, and you need to really think of what you're sending with your Swap Frog. Buzzsaw Shark and Abyssturge. Just saying, but Abyssturge is the only playable target that isn't completely useless. Still, 99% of the time you won't be able to use it, but you can discard it with Swap Frog. The only thing I don't really like is that, of course, it's a fish and it's not an aqua, so you can't negate with Toad using it, of course. But its effect is very decent. So if you don't know, when it's normal or special summon, you can discard one water monster from your hand to the graveyard and add a level 3 or lower water monster from your graveyard to your hand. That's very, very average, or once per turn, of course, but it's important with Buzzsaw Shark, which lets you go into rank 4s, and notably Barton Shark, but also Baguska, or say Abyss Dweller. I was talking earlier about Invocación Doble, Double Summon, and Monster Reborn. Really hate buying Spanish cards, buying on both Italian ones. So sad. It's important because Rescue Rabbit, because Swap Frog, because Dupe Frog even. I'm going to explain it right now. It's going to be a bit complicated, please bear with me. So, how does it all synergize? Well, let's get through it. There's a lot of ways, first up, of making a first turn board with Frog's Jam. There's a lot of possibilities, actually, of what you can do, and you need, when you see your hand, to figure them out quickly, and you need to know a bit about your opponent. So you can try to do a bit of psychology to figure out what he may play, what he may think actually, how he reacts to what you activate, and that will give you a hint as to what he plays and what negations you should put on the board. So sometimes you have a Buzzsaw Shark and a double summon, but maybe you have also a Swap Frog, and you may you may see it not worthy of going into Draco Future, which, if you don't know, Draco Future is an XYZ monster that when your opponent activates an effect monster, you can negate it and take control of it. It's not mandatory to, I mean, it is mandatory to take control of it, but it isn't restrictive. So if your opponent activates an untrap, and of course it's out of the field, you can take control of it, you can still negate it, which is important. So basically what you will want to do in a first turn board is summoning Totally Awesome and getting, where the fuck is it, Dragoon. That's what you want to do in a first turn. You can go double Toad. I don't necessarily recommend it. You can, of course. Why I don't really recommend it? Dragoon is a very difficult monster to get rid of, and it's very rare that you'll actually be able to summon 4 frogs or aqua, basically level 2. You can, it can happen, but usually you will also want to have some resources in the graveyard, and it's also due to the fact that with Vert Anaconda you get rid of 3 of your breaks you don't really want to see, you don't really top deck. It's due to the fact that when Totally Awesome is sent to the graveyard, its effect of adding a water monster to your hand, you never add him back to the extra deck. When it was limited and even semi-limited, you kind of had to do it, but no, you never do it because you can special summon it from the graveyard using Monster Reborn notably. And what you want to do when Totally Awesome is sent to the graveyard is getting back some resources. So you want to get back a Swap Frog, you want to get back even a Frog to Jam, you want to get back something you can use later on, something that will synergize with what you may top deck, which could be a double summon, which could be a Swap Frog, which could be an unexpected die, which could be a Rescue Rabbit because you have some Link Spiders, and that's why it is very important. That's how you use Totally Awesome. When you negate with Totally Awesome, you tribute itself, because you want to keep your Dupe Frog. Having Dupe Frog and Dragoon is very painful to deal with, because you can't attack Dragoon, and it has a lot of attack, you know, especially if you negate with it. It has a lot of attack, and it can go all the way to 4,000, and summoning a monster that has 4,000 or more attack is extremely difficult, and summoning 2 of them is even harder. The ways to get rid of Dragoon are still very few to this day, And the incredible synergy with tributing Totally Awesome to negate, to use its negation effect is that you can add, even if it's useless, even if it's adding a running Todin, which you want to see in your graveyard, it's another material to negate with Dragoon because you need to discard. And often you just empty your hand, or you have some untraps that you don't want to discard, and it's more negation. Totally Awesome just provide that negation. So usually you negate first with Totally Awesome and then with Dragoon. That's how it works, except for some occasions when it's not so bad to discard a card, but usually you don't have bricks you want to discard. Usually all the cards in the deck, even Abyss Sturge, is a card that you don't want to discard because it in a way synergizes with Swap Frog, so yeah, you really want to keep it. That's actually important. So that's what you want to do in a first turn. Now, how do you do that? Well, doing Dragoon, there's a lot of ways, and more actually than Frog the Jam. Dragoon, usually you'll try to go with Double Link Spider, which goes into Vert Anaconda, which goes into Dragoon. Alright. Double Link Spider, you can do it a lot of different ways. Why Double Link Spiders? Because Vert Anaconda requires effect monsters. So, of course, we're going to see a lot of different scenarios when we'll play an Edo and Dueling Book and such, and Wait Rel, etc. But basically what often happens is you have two normal monsters in your hand. Those two normal monsters, you're like, yeah, I don't maybe have a double summon, I don't really know what to do with them. And what you're going to do, normal summon, go into Link Spider, effect Link Spider, special summon, going to Link Spider, Vert Anaconda, Dragoon. Right. But there's also a lot of ways. Maybe you have a lot of extenders. It happens to have a lot of extenders sometimes. And you're like, okay, I have a lot of stuff to do. What do I do first, etc. And what you will try is to keep, if you can, one Link Spider into the extra deck. Why? Because it comes in handy. You may get back some normal monster using Totally Awesome. And having one Link Spider is just another way to get an extender, another monster in the field. Let me remind you that we have Nightmare Phoenix that just synergizes perfectly with Link Spider, because normal monster into Link Spider into another normal monster equals Phoenix. You may have access to, let's say, an expected die before, or Swap Frog, or Double Summon, and you can even co-link it, so you draw another card, you can dig in your deck. There's really a lot of ways to do to go into Vert Anaconda, and it's very important to actually take some time and figure out the best way. So you want to keep a Link Spider. If you can't, it's fine, but you really want to keep one. Of course, if you just have a Rescue Rabbit, you can go into Double Link Spider, but I don't recommend summoning Dragoon instead of Toad. What you want to do is summoning Toad, then if you have more resources, summoning a Dragoon. Double summon also comes in handy, and especially Monster Reborn, because sometimes you open with Entraps, and you can just normal summon Ash Blossom, and maybe you have a monster in your graveyard, maybe you have some, say like Running Toad in your hand, and you can Invocation Double. You can Monster Reborn, you can do a lot of this stuff. We'll see in the tech cards, but if you have space in your extra deck, or you don't really want to play the Burst or Shark Engine, which still I strongly recommend you doing it, you can play one copy of Mirage, because basically any monster and Monster Reborn turns into Dragoon. Just summon your Entrap, Mirage, Monster Reborn the Entrap, and Vert Anaconda Dragoon. That's also a way to do it. I don't play it anymore. First up, I mean, there's only one Monster Reborn in my deck, and I don't have the space for an Mirage in my deck, because Mirage would be only useful for this specifically. So yeah. It can also be decent, and I'm saying it like decent, if you want to play the access code variant. We'll see it later on in later videos, but just wanted to say it now briefly. All the roads are made to do Dragoon more than Toad. Of course, it's Toad oriented, Toad heavy oriented, and if you can do anything but a Toad or a Dragoon, you're going to go into Toad because Toad special summons Dupe Frog, and it's very often people will crash into Dupe Frog and you'll get to search Swap Frog, and Totally Awesome will let you add a water monster from graveyard to hand. So again, a lot of synergy, and it's just great to summon a Toad. Still, Dragoon is easy to make, and it's what is important to be kept in mind. So, now that we've discussed it, let's talk about the big boy. Totally Awesome. There's, of course, a lot of ways to make it, and it's heavily focused. So there is double summon that just basically helps a lot because you have some normal monsters, and of course the Wolf Frog package. I want to discuss one synergy real quick. Whenever you see Swap Frog on Monster Reborn, please note that it's basically infinite resources for you, because you're going to go, you will usually resolve 3 swap Frogs in one turn, so it's usually GG well play. You can go double Toad, usually you can go Toad Dragoon. It also happened to me that I went double Toad and Dragoon, which was quite impressive, I won't lie. So it's Toad, it's Swap Frogs and Swap Frog, Monster Reborn Swap Frogs and Swap Frogs, so far back to hand, special summon Swap Frogs, send again. It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. Monster Reborn is one of the best cards in the deck because it synergizes so much with a lot of different cards, and even Totally Awesome. You can just Monster Reborn or Totally Awesome. You can Monster Reborn. Your Dupe Frog misses timing. You have no resources almost. You have like 1 Trooper in your hand, you have maybe 1 Abyss Sturge, like it's useless, or you have 1 Busto Shark, but you have Busto Shark and Abyss Sturge and you want to cry. I mean, you can just Monster Reborn the Dupe Frog crash into the opponent monster, you search Swap Frog, you discard you send to the graveyard your Abyss Sturge, special summon Swap Frog, send Running Toad in, banish Dupe Frog, special summon, Totally Awesome, or Dragoon, or whatever. Because sometimes you need to remember Dragoon can OTK using its burn effect, so it's also extremely important that there's another effect that I like a lot, which is Swap Frog extra normal summon. There's something that often you use when your opponent just ran out of entraps or run out of negations or just doesn't have any negation. It's you have a Totally Awesome that you've not really used its effect, or you have already used its effect, and you want to OTK, but I mean, there's not enough resources, and you have another monster in the field. What you can do is if you have enough resources, you can plan on going to Ball Sword. Depends on the amount of damage you need to do. Depends on the opponent has monster or not, because if he doesn't have any monster, it's going to be difficult to ATK using Dragoon. So you want to go into Ball Sword, which you can do because you will use those 2 to go into one of your Link 2, say Psyframe Omega. No, it's not Omega, by the way. What's the name again? It's Lambda, isn't it? Yeah, you want to go into Lambda, and usually by then you'll have your access to at least 1 Swap Frog, and Swap Frog just gives an extra normal summon to your Dupe Frog. So Totally Awesome can go into the graveyard. If you don't have any more resources in your hand, you can just add back a Dupe Frog and extra normal the Dupe Frog, which it's another body in the field. So you have your Running Toad in the graveyard. That means you get another monster on the field without banishing a frog. So it's send your Totally Awesome to the graveyards when you can. Its effect of adding back a water monster is excellent. It's beyond ridiculous and beyond useful in this deck. This deck is not here to stun, it's here to survive 1 turn and OTK. It's basically that. You survive and you OTK. That's it. So now that we've discussed most stuff, I realize that we haven't touched the Busto Shark combo. It's not complicated, of course. It's normal summon Busto Shark effect, special summon Abyss Sturge from the deck, XYZ into Batman Shark effect, detach, special summon a Rebarian Shark, overlay to Black Ray Lancer, overlay into Utopic Future, overlay into Draco Future, basically. You need to keep in mind that there's one restriction behind Busto Shark, which is that when you use its effect, you can't go into anything else but XYZ monster, but you can go into Totally Awesome. So it can happen that you can go into both Utopic Draco Future and it's totally awesome. In some scenarios, Utopic Draco Future might just be better than Dragoon. You need to keep that in mind. This card is also extremely difficult to deal with, cannot be destroyed by battle, and it takes control of opponent monsters. And like Dragoon, it doesn't negate everything, but taking control of opponent monsters is very, very good, of course. I don't need to explain it. And in some matchups, it can come in really handy. So that was what needed to be said. Sometimes you want to go into Bahamut Shark and do a Toad. I don't really like it. You can in a scenario where it's game 2 or game 3 and the opponent will have sided Nibiru, and what you can do sometimes is you have access to Bahamut Shark and you have some extenders. Bahamut Shark can go into Toad quickly, and the Toad summoned via Bahamut Shark can negate a Nibiru, and if it negates a Nibiru, it can add another resources going from the graveyard, going to the graveyard. So it's more interesting Bahamut Shark into Toad in later rounds of the game rather than first turn. First turn you usually will want to go into Draco Future, unless the opponent wins the dice roll and he's like, yeah, you go first. There's a lot of chances he plays Nibiru, of course, so keep that in mind. There's a lot of ways to go into Toad before the 5th summon, and it's something you need to really take care of. You really need to make sure you are safe if you can. Of course, some scenarios, as I said, the opponent who wins the dice roll will let you go first. Of course, that's a sign of, yeah, he indeed playing Nibiru or cards that will interrupt you. You need to really read the game. You need to sight read what your opponent may do, and it's important that you go into your negation early. Don't overdo it. When you special summon a lot, when you waste your entire hand is the 3rd turn. Usually kind of keep some resources. Just summoning a Toad is fine. If you're worried that the opponents may have a Nibiru or such and you can't really go into Dragoon and Toad before the 5th summon, some awkward scenarios, just doing a Toad is fine, as long as you keep resources and you're sure to not get OTK'd. Usually a Toad and a Dupe Frog, you won't get OTK'd. It can happen, but it's not often. As for the entraps, nothing much to say. Ash Blossom is great in general, not the best entrap to play right now. Impermanence is not really good, but it's great in locals because not everyone plays meta, and Impermanence is just a great card overall. Do I recommend it though? Not really. You can play Gamma. Anyway, we'll discuss Gamma in the tech cards video because you'll see that it's a very good card actually. It synergizes well with the deck. I've tried to pick interruptions that synergizes over some interruptions that may be slightly better but are just a pain in the ass to activate. And why did I say Nibiru synergizes well? Not because Dupe Frog, yeah, it misses timing of course. No, it synergizes well because even if you have your Totally Awesome on the pitch, tributing your Totally Awesome isn't a big deal if you already used its negation, because going to the graveyard, you will use its graveyard effect. Even then, Frog's Gem is a deck that you usually first turn try to build a small board, but that small board, it never happens that 3rd turn your Totally Awesome is still on the pitch. Or on the field, sorry, I've been watching too much football. It never happens. So you play a deck that just destroys its own field, prisons. That's where Nibiru comes in, because it just destroys the field again. There's nothing much to be said about Nibiru aside from that. It brings another material on the field. Yeah, I really need to make sure I don't say on the pitch. That's just stupid. And yeah, that's about it for the deck profile. Just want to have one last word about Boral Sword and Nightmare Phoenix and Lambda. So Lambda will touch more about it with Gamma, because usually Gamma is either in my main deck or in my side deck. Quite frankly, I will put it in my main deck for the coming tournaments and such. Still, I went with Impermanence because it's a more casual approach, and yeah. Sniper Phoenix is just great in general. Why is Nightmare Phoenix great? Okay, that's something we haven't touched on, I think, quite important. It's great to deal with There Can Be Only One, which is really destroying the deck. Even you need to know that you can activate Rescue Rabbit under There Can Be Only One. What will happen is one of the two monster summon will go straight into the graveyard when upon touching the field. What can happen is you can go into Link Spider special summon another monster, you go into Nightmare Phoenix, and you get rid of the There Can Be Only One, of course, if Nightmare Phoenix doesn't get negated. But it's a very strong option against a tech card that you still see quite often, actually, and it can deal with some iffy scenarios. Like, you can go into Nightmare Phoenix very early into the game, and it can often get rid of some very, very dreadful cards you don't want. Some awful floodgates, notably, you really don't want to face in the grindish aspect of the game. It synergizes well simply because of Link Spider. That's why partly I said keep a Link Spider, because using a Link Spider you can go into Nightmare Phoenix very easily. Its restriction of having two monsters with different names, that's why it's great. Just Rescue Rabbit, not under the There Can Be Only One, is an instant Nightmare Phoenix, because you just use one Link Spider and boom, and you can utilize Link Spider effect maybe, depending on the scenarios. Nightmare Phoenix is great. Bolso Dragon is a great option that doesn't require a lot to summon, and a great option to OTK. That's what I said. If your opponent doesn't have any monster, you often don't really want to summon your Dragoon because you have nothing to destroy and you have no burn input. You want your Ball Swords. You can play Access Code, but Access Code requires some more space because you need to play Nightmare Unicorn. And would you play Unicorn over Lambda when you play Gamma, notably? No, not really, of course, because you will use Gamma as materials to summon some stuff. Not even summon Omega, but actually go into, say, a Virgin Anaconda, for example, or go into Ball Sword. Ball Sword, again, it's so great with Ronin Toadin, like, it's ridiculous. So yeah, that's about it for the deck profile. I hope you liked it. Next week, we will discuss the tech cards. When I say tech cards, I mean every card I've ever considered to play in this deck. And in the coming weeks, we'll probably discuss some variants of Frogs of Jam, and actually playing some of those decks into a Frogs of Jam deck list and see how it works, etc. So I hope you liked it. I'll catch you guys next week, and yeah, unfortunately this video didn't have a lot of meme, quite sadly.